Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Today I'm in a 2013 Mercedes C-Class Coupe. This one has a 2.1 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine. The Mercedes C-Class has been around since the mid-90s and I've always been a fan of it. It might not be the most exciting of cars, but sort of solid and dependable. Each version has been a very good car. They always do exactly what you'd expect them to do. But they're never the most exciting cars. I think they always leave you feeling a little bit cold. They always seem to be a little bit too sensible, in my opinion anyway. Of all the small luxury cars, they always feel a little bit boring. You know, when you were a kid in the school holidays, you'd be dragged out to go and buy some new school shoes, and what you'd really want is those kickers that your mates had. But in the end, you'd be dragged to Clark's to get some sensible shoes that would last. Well, for me, that's what the C-Class Mercedes is like, and always has been. It's always been the sensible choice, like buying sensible shoes. The C-Class Mercedes is the Clark's of the small executive saloon car world. But by introducing the coupe version of the C-Class, they have made it a little bit more interesting, a little bit sporty and better looking, and that's the model I'm in today. I don't know why Mercedes didn't do this sooner. Why didn't they offer a coupe version of the C-Class years ago? I know what you're going to say, what about the CLK? But the CLK was a different model in its own right. It wasn't just a three-door version of the C-Class. Now, BMW have made a 3 Series coupe for years. Audi have done it with the A5. But yeah, Mercedes were quite late to the party with this one. The model I'm in today is a late 2013 63 reg. C220, let me get the name right. Blue Efficiency Sport AMG line. Which is quite a mouthful to say, but nevertheless, that's the model I'm in. They do loads of different models and it's quite confusing to keep up with which one's which. It has a 2.1 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, which produces 175 horsepower, and this one's linked to a 7-speed automatic gearbox. You can buy them with a 6-speed manual, but I don't know what you think about these, but I always think Mercedes manual gearboxes always seem a little bit weird. They're always a little bit, I don't know, just a little bit odd to drive. They're never as slick as a 3 Series or a VW or Audi. And by having a manual version of this car, it would be like going for a jog with your work boots on. Just not quite right. So definitely the automatic gearbox is the best option. It's very smooth, very efficient, and quite sporty too. I think it looks great. It's modern, sharp. It's got that start-stop feature on it too, which I despise. But anyway, it keeps emissions down, which means the road tax on this is only £145 a year. The interior is a nice place to be. It's geared more for sport rather than comfort, as are most small luxury cars these days. But that said, the ride's not too firm, and if you put your foot down, yeah, there's plenty of power there actually. The leather seats are quite firm. I've always thought the way that Mercedes spring their seats, you always kind of sit and bounce on top of it rather than sinking into it like you would in a BMW or a Volvo or something. But the ride, although it's a little bit on the firm side, it's nothing like driving a 325 coupe, so it's much more comfortable than that. This still has an old-fashioned foot-operated handbrake, which does feel really antiquated. I know the later models have an electronic brake, but you would think this, being a 2013 model, would have had an electronic handbrake rather than a foot pedal, but it doesn't. The seat belts don't come out to greet you on a little arm either, like they do in the E-Class coupe, or the 4 Series too. So you have to reach all the way back here just to get your seat belt. I like the layout of everything. I like all the controls. Everything's very easy to use. You get this dial here which controls the infotainment system, which, as I say, is very easy to operate. I've had a couple of newer shaped C-Classes, and that dual wheel system is... you'd need a PhD in computing to try and figure that out. I also like the climate control because everything's really easy. You just turn these dials to adjust the temp, and that's it. You also get heated seats, and the finish on all the buttons is very nice. Quite upmarket and classy. The audio system is superb, which is a godsend actually, because you do hear a lot of engine noise from this diesel motor. And that's one issue I have with Mercedes diesels. They always sound like the motor's been made by John Deere. They really should have upgraded the soundproofing or sound deadening or whatever, or just made a slightly quieter engine. It always feels a little bit coarse and a little bit unrefined. Performance-wise, the engine's very good. It's very capable. It's also very economical. £60 will fill the fuel tank, and you'll average 40 miles per gallon round town, and in excess of 50 miles per gallon on a highway run. Rear legroom isn't brilliant, to be honest. I can get in the back, and I've got enough room, I suppose, but I wouldn't want to go on a long journey stuck in the back there. And I would suggest if you regularly have people in there that are old enough to vote, you really should buy the E-Class Coupe. Right, so we're here on the dual carriageway. I'll put my foot down a little bit. It kicks down quickly, the gearbox is smooth. It changes at around 4,000 RPM. And there's plenty of torque there actually. Before you know it, you'll be doing the speed limit. It's quite quiet, there's not much wind noise. As I say, you do get the drone from the diesel engine, but that can be drowned out with the stereo, so it's not the end of the world. This is really a car designed to go up and down the motorway at length all day long. In this model I've got sat-nav, heated seats, DAB radio. It's really got everything that you'd need. It's got cruise control, which in typical Mercedes fashion is really easy to operate. You just tap that stalk and that's it. I like the clarity of the display too. Everything's lit quite well. I don't mean lit in a way that young people use the word lit. I mean actually illuminated quite well. The boot's quite spacious. I like how you can pop the boot from the key or by pressing this button on the door card here. The rear seats fold completely flat, and I have used this car to do several B&Q trips. And it's surprisingly spacious. Grey Qashqai, grey Qashqai. Why does everybody buy a grey Qashqai these days? Get some imagination. I don't know if you can hear that diesel engine noise, but it is a little bit coarse. You've also got paddles behind the steering wheel too to manually change the gears. I like the adaptive headlamps too. You've got LED lights which come on during the day, and xenons too. But at night time you can see for miles. They're self-leveling and they're adaptive too, so you turn the steering wheel and they move slightly. It also has auto-dimming wing mirrors and rear view mirror, which is good for driving at night. For a petrol head, you'd obviously want the C63 version with that 6.2 litre V8. But for everyday running around, this is perfectly adequate. I mean, that's the thing, as much as I want an M3 or a supercharged Jag or whatever, in the real world, when you're sat in traffic, you can only go so fast, and this kind of does that job perfectly. On a road like this, littered with speed cameras, I can't go much quicker than this anyway. It's a good sized car to use every day too, because it's not too big, it's not too small, you can fit everything that you need to in it, and still park it in your local supermarket car park. It's really easy to drive and park. This is a good feature of it too, you actually get the speed limit displayed on the dash, just so you know that you're not going too quickly or too slowly. I like the fact that it's got front and rear parking sensors because, as I say, it just makes parking this thing a doddle. The steering is very light and vague, but again, when you're trying to park this outside your local post office, who cares? It might not be as driver focused as a 3 Series BMW, but it is easier to live with on a daily basis. I also like how the mirrors automatically fold in when you lock the car. Reliability wise, this car has been superb. I've had this car for nearly a year actually, and it's kind of just been a bit of a pool car. My dad's used it, my mum's used it, I've used it plenty of times, and it's just never missed a beat. I bought it with 43,000 miles on the clock, and now it's done 49, or nearly 50. And yeah, it's cost me a service. It was due an interim service which cost me about £120. I put 2 front tyres on it, which were about £60 a side, and that's been it. It's got the AMG wheels, which I think look much better, and they don't completely ruin the ride either. Used prices here in the UK start at around £7,000 for a coupe version of the C-Class. If you want an older saloon version, then you'll pick one up for around 3.5 to 4 grand. Now this basically is the same engine that goes in the Mercedes vans, so it's quite capable of doing 500,000 miles if you look after it. So as long as you service it, it's a little bit like Forrest Gump. It'll just run and run and run. I would suggest if you are buying one, try and get a high spec model with leather, heated seats, sat-nav, because it will make selling it much easier. Nobody wants a Mercedes with cloth and no nav. One thing to mention actually with all Mercedes of this era, if it doesn't have sat-nav, you can buy a plug-in Becker unit off eBay for about 200 quid, and it just plugs right in and instantly you've got sat-nav. I've done that countless times. If you go for a high mileage model, you might have issues with an EGR valve, but they're about 600 or 700 quid all done, so it's not prohibitive really. They do lots of different engine choices. The range begins with a 1.6 litre petrol engine if you're not bothered about performance, all the way up to a 6.2 litre V8, if you are. You could buy a BMW 3 Series or 4 Series if you want something a little bit sportier. you could buy an Audi A5 if you want something a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Forgettable. But really, for a lot of people, this ticks a lot of boxes. So thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you've got anything to say, if it's positive, leave it below and I'll try my best to get back to you. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe. I'm now at like 27,000 subscribers, which is unbelievable because I'm only like just over a year into this whole YouTube channel. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Cheers, guys.